that's something that it is not, oh, that person changed. It's like, I have to do this now because here are the stakes. The stakes
Mm-hmm.
aren't what they were 7 years ago. The stakes are higher now. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to be around different people and other things to make those things happen. People don't get that. And I didn't get that. I had when I've been working on this thing for a long time, and I got a lot of good investor friends in Chicago and great friends of mine. And I was all trying to get them invest in what I was doing. And none of them did. And at first I was a little brash about it, like, wow, that's, I thought they believed in what I was doing or
Mm-hmm.
believed in me. And it wasn't that.
Mm-hmm.
What I was working on wasn't
That's it.
their gift. That wasn't what they wanted to do.
Mm.
And that's okay. Because
Yes.
now people come to me with opportunities. I'm like, good luck with that, bro. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that is not for me. That's for you.
That's right.
And and that's something we have to get for sometimes. And I had held that on my shoulder for a while, and I started to understand, like, you know what? Everybody don't have time. Your dream ain't somebody else's dream.
That's
That
it.
don't mean they got to help you with it.
That's
And,
it.
and that's just growth in entrepreneurship that you learn. So.
What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go.
What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You, your favorite personal development coach, with another episode of Black Fathers Now. Now, look, I always say this, but this time I'm telling the truth again. We have an eclectic brother on the line with us today. We have a brother that's a husband, he's a father, he's an accomplished actor, he's an entrepreneur, he's a former NFL football player, but he's also co-founder. If you're watching the video, you'll see some images behind the scenes. He's co-founder of this thing called fan-controlled football, which he's going to dive into a little bit later and kind of tell you what this thing is. But he's changing the world, he's changing the landscape, and he's really got some big plans and a lot of big things going on. But he's also my frat brother. So we cannot omit the fact that he is a brother of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And I have none other than my man, my frat brother, Ray Austin. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. How you doing, T?
Man, I can't complain, bro. Man, I'm glad to basically be able to pin you down, because I know y'all got a lot of moving parts and, and all this stuff going right now. So I'm thankful to get you here to be able to chop it up for a little bit and share your story.
Man, I appreciate it. I'm always I always feel uncomfortable sometimes sharing the story, but hey, if people want to hear it, I'll tell it. So.
Oh man, look, we're gonna jump into your story in a second, but before we get started, I always like to start with your support system, your shout outs. I listen to and you're an actor, so you get this. One of the buddies or one of my guys I interviewed, he's a stunt motorcycle rider, and he said in movies, the important people always get mentioned up front. And in most interviews, everybody gives shout outs at the end. I like to give shout outs out front, because without them, there will be no us. So give some shout outs before we jump into your story, my brother.
Oh man, I have to start out with my number one shout out. My favorite, my biggest teammate, my best teammate is my wife, man. We do things very well together. We've been married 8 years, and she's just my rock, man. She allows me to go be me, and that's all I ask for, And that I have to give her much praise for all the things I've done in the last 7-8 years, and I've done some things before then, but my kids are my motivation. They're 20, 22. They're older, but they'll always be my babies, and we're gonna have some more. I'm sending shout outs to my future kids too, because my job and what we're trying to do is create generational wealth. So they motivate me already. They don't even know it.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, I think of, when this comes out, this will be episode 253. I think you're the first person that's ever given a shout out to their future kids. Like that's powerful, because I think we'll see this as we dive into your story about being a visionary and thinking ahead, being in the moment, but thinking ahead. That's not something that a lot of us prioritize, right? And I'm interested because, again, I'm going to explore your story as the fans and all listen. But I think that's really powerful, man. Shouting out not just what you have now, but the shout out to what we're doing now for our future kids and all. So that's powerful, my brother.
Yeah, I've had some really I've been blessed to do a lot of things in my past, and my kids won't see that. My future kids won't see that, and my job now is to show them other things that to leave that legacy for them. That's really all I care about, man. Cars, clothes, I could care less. I can care less about that. So I'm it's just all about accomplishing and creating a legacy for my family, period. So.
And and it's so interesting. And I think that's a great segue into like your origin story. Like you mentioned that you're blessed to have had amazing experiences and all of that. And take us back to the beginning though. Like what was kind of the jump off growing up, inspirations and all, which led you, kind of down the path that you're on now?
Yeah, man. Grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina, in the Hampton Home projects. Me and my brother lived with my grandma, my mama there, and my dad. I ended up getting real sick. I ended up getting pneumonia as a kid. And you have pneumonia as a kid, it's you can all kids can die from that, and I almost did. And my dad joined the Army because we didn't have any insurance, and that affected our whole family, trying to make sure that I was healthy. So he ended up joining the Army. And when I say that was my blessing in disguise, I think a lot of kids that grow up in the hood or grow up in one neighborhood and they don't get a chance to get out of that neighborhood, they don't see how big life in the world is. So when my dad moved and got in the military, I mean, I was from Shreveport to Canada to we lived 4 years in Hawaii. You know what I mean? So as a young kid, I'm in the islands of Hawaii, as I'm growing up in high school and intermediate school and high school. And I remember, man, I was an introvert. I was a real quiet kid. My brother was the one that was always out doing that stuff. And my mom was like, go out and go play with your brother. Go play some football, boys. Stop staying in the house. Stop staying under me. That's what she would always say. Stop staying under me. So yeah, I kicked rocks and cans all the way up to go see my brother and play football with him because he was bigger than me. And I was in Hawaii, man. There ain't nothing but Hawaiians and Samoans out there. So
that's right. Them some big old boys.
Yeah, man. I'm like, what am I doing out here, man? So I ended up getting on a football team with the best quarterback of the high school. And he was like, I want little dude. I was like, all right, whatever. And he got me in the huddle, man. He was like, hey, go deep. And I was like, what is deep? What the hell is deep? What about deep? And what does deep mean? And I'm like, all right. So I just started running for my life. And I tell everybody, man, my hands have been this big since I was a kid, so I just threw them up in the air, waving like I just don't care. And I ended up pulling down that first touchdown, man. And it changed my life. I came home smelling like grass and all bit up. And my brother, being at the table and having my brother bragging with me in front of my mom and dad was everything, man. And that started the whole football life for me.
Wow. So it was like you were an introvert who all of a sudden got an opportunity to step out. It's almost like the grass is greener on the other side, right? Yeah. So you got an opportunity to step out into this spotlight, so to speak, and it felt good to you. And that was basically where it started.
That's where it all started, man. And there was a guy on this football team, and I'll come back to this. He was an All-American running back, and I was just like, man, I looked up to this guy. And I was in 9th grade, he was in 12th grade, and he ended up getting a scholarship out of Hawaii to go to West Virginia. And I was just like, man, that dude was like my idol. We ended up moving to Oklahoma, which we thought was a bad thing, and it ended up being, from the football universe, it was the best thing that could ever happen. I ended up being on a football squad in Oklahoma that was the number 1 team in the country, USA Today number 1 team in the country. Wow. I get there as a sophomore, and I'm seeing all these amazing athletes, and I'm like, my dad was like, if you can play, right? And I end up starting on a national championship team 10 of us went to Division I, and 4 of us went to the NFL off that one team. And I grew up with football in my blood, and just really great coaches, and really understood the game. And that just was always my outlet. It was just like I found out who I was, and I was going to run with that.
Man, you know what was amazing? The title of this podcast is Black Fathers Now. And what I tell people all the time is, I basically use the conversation around Black fatherhood as a way to get into personal development, growth, uncovering the story and all of that. But I go back to something you mentioned very early, your dad's sacrifice.
Yeah,
right?
man.
It's like your dad's sacrifice when you were ill to go into the Army gave you all the opportunity to travel and see these different parts of the country, different parts of the world. Yep. But it also put you in an environment in which you were able to shine in a place where you got also a big spotlight on you, where, you ultimately were in a place where you're number one, team in the country. And so it's just like, it all started from a dad's sacrifice.
Well, see, like when we was on set, everybody don't know this, but we did a photo shoot together, and I had a chance to work with your family. Yes. And I saw you coaching your kid up all day long. When I say coach, mean that you was telling them, stop doing that, stop going there, stop doing this. What did you say? Did you say yes, sir? Did you say? And that's what you needed. My dad was there from the beginning. He was a drill sergeant. So I had, if any of my teammates that knew me at college and in the pros, they knew I was a disciplined guy. I was all about doing the things the right way just because I wanted, I got that from my dad. My dad was always around. So I grew up with that. I saw somebody shave their head and shave their beard and get up in the morning and put on the boot. We used to take his boots off. Now, if anybody that's been in the Army boots are really hard because of the shoelaces are almost wire, so they can cut your hands damn near. They have to have them super tight. So when he used to come home, he used to make us take off his shoes. We used to have to, me and my brother, get on our knees and like unboot them.
Wow.
And my brother was a senior and I was a junior, and I was an all-stater and I was a preseason All-American.
Okay.
My dad came home and said, y'all come up and take off my boots.
Ooh.
My brother was like, we was doing it, and my brother was like, I ain't doing it no more. I was like, okay. And my dad looked at both of us. It's like, for real, you ain't doing it no more. And he was like, no, I'm not doing this no more. I'm 18 years old. I'm a senior. I'm graduating and everything. And my dad said, man, I was just waiting for y'all to tell me when y'all was gonna stop doing it.
Wow.
And man, we looked at each other, my mom down the stairs and just cracking up laughing. And it was just, it showed me, and we ended up doing it anyway, but but it was the lesson that I never forget, man. Speak up. Like, speak up when you think something is right. You ain't got to take something for all, like speak up and be the man that you're supposed to be, man. I never forget that. But that's just having somebody in your life and the type of thing, having that male presence in your life. That meant so much for me.
Man, dude, it's so powerful. Like, just even hearing him say, I was waiting on you to say something. It's like, you ever think about how, there are opportunities abound, or there are people who do this or do that, and you're in their midst, right? But, you're just kind of hanging on or whatever. And eventually when you get the nerve to go and say like, hey man, can I be a part of this? They're like, dude, we were just waiting on you to ask. All you gotta do, closed mouths don't get fed.
Right. That's right. And it just showed it really, because my dad he's a big guy. He was a deep voice, so he's very aggressive looking
y'all was scared. Don't say it.
We was always scared of him. And so to say that and do that meant we got over a huge hump, because if I'm not scared of my dad anymore. Like, who else can scare me in life? What else can scare me in life? So I got so many of those great memories and lessons for sure that I'm gonna pass on 100.
I'm gonna tell you what's powerful about that, and I hope fellas you're paying attention, and ladies y'all tuning in to see what we're talking about. It was so awesome that you were able to get that I'm not scared in a safe environment from somebody that you love. So the reason I was mentioning that is, unfortunately, some of us grow up in challenging circumstances where, the streets raise us, or we're, deal with the gang stuff, you deal with, crime, all that kind of stuff on the street. And you learn and you hear people's story or people's narrative where they learn how to not be scared in the boardroom because they look back and they like, well, dude, I was dodging bullets 5 years ago. I ain't scared of nobody in the boardroom. I'm not scared of any putting some money in and investing. It's like, dude, I used to put it all on black, doing this or doing that. But you were fortunate because you had a loving father to get that lesson in a safe environment. And I hope all of us that are dads, that are leaders, that are mentors, make sure that we curate an environment in which our kids can learn these lessons, but the stakes ain't so high that it's going to be something that could be devastating if they make the wrong choice.
Absolutely. And you just said something, man, which is, you made me remember that. And that's one thing that's so great about having conversations, because you talking to yourself again. Like I just got reminded. Like I'm in a lot of meetings now that would have never thought I'd be into, like with some of the companies in our board meetings and investor meetings, and I'm the only brother that's sitting at the table. And sometimes you get like, man, should I say something, or am I qualified to say something? But you have to remember that at the end of the day, I always say we all in the same room. Yes. I don't know, regardless how we got here, we all in the same room and sitting at the same table.
And just like your daddy told you, I was just waiting on you to say something. Yeah, right.
And a lot of times that in those meetings, they are waiting for you to say something.
Dude, check this out. I interviewed a brother about a year ago, and he's an entrepreneur in Newark, New Jersey. He has some restaurants and all that stuff. His name is Kai Campbell. You can go back and listen to his interview. But one of the things that he said was his dad at one point was the superintendent of schools in Newark, New Jersey. And he said his dad was sitting in the meetings, and he was in there with, I guess, one of his counterparts or whatever. And he looked at the boardroom, he was in the meeting, and he was just looking around. He was just like, dude. And he leaned over to his guy that was with me. He said, where are all the brothers at? And the guy leaned back over to him and said, you're here because you're supposed to bring them.
Bring them, man. Come on, man.
Dude, that's that thing. I was just like, that was such a mic drop. And most of us like to be the, sometimes they call it the magical Negro. I want to be the only one in the room. Like, no. You're there because you are the gateway. You're supposed to open up that door and say, no, come on. I'm here for y'all to come.
I say this all the time. I was put in this position at a seat at the table to make room for somebody else. I always say, I say that every time we hire people. And the first thing I did in this company now, because I am the commissioner, I know we'll get into that, but I'm one of the co-founders, but I'm also the commissioner. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I went out and sought out the commissioner of the SIAC, which is the HBCU schools, to bring. He didn't know me. I reached out to him, flew down to Atlanta, had lunch with him, and told him I'd like you to not only be a part of my company, but we'll give you equity too. And so I have mentorship under that, someone that's been there and done that. So I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I've got this happened with some of the players, or that happened, or how should I deal with this? He's been in a lot of those board meetings. So I'm a huge component of mentorship, regardless of. One of my coaches is still, and he's a bro, Kevin Ramsey out in Arizona. He's one of my biggest mentors. Every time, regardless, he's a high school coach now. I can have meetings about other stuff, and I still call him just to get his perspective. I mean, I think if you look at my email quote is iron sharpens iron. That's and right. I say that daily, because I'm only going to be as sharp as the guy right next to me. And if I can't make you sharp and you can't make me sharp, what's the point of you being in my life? Just being real. Let's go both ways. You got to sharpen both sides of the blade. Ain't just sharpen one side of the blade for the iron to get sharp. It go both ways. And that's what you should want. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Dude, I think Nipsey Hussle said it best. He said, if you look around and you don't get inspired by your circle, you don't have a circle, you're in a cage.
Yeah, that's, man. Come on. There's a real good, there's a quote, or I guess a meme of Jay-Z in this zone look, and you see the whole Rockefeller family going crazy. They were like, this was the moment when Jay-Z knew it was time to go.
That's it. Again, but you have to, and we have to understand that as we ascend and as we go forward, that, granted, there will be folks that come along with us, but then there are times in which you have to change your circle, change your community, change some of the folks that you're hanging around so that you can get to where it is you're supposed to go. And it doesn't mean if you discount people, you just understand that what got you here might not take you there, and we got to do things different.
Mike, that's such a good statement, man. And people always say, you change, like you're going, oh, you change. And that's something that would happen. And you do change.
Yes.
Your conversation changes.
Mm-hmm.
The people that you're talking to changes. Because if you're in a company or an entrepreneur and you're 8 years into something or 10 years or 5 years into something, and you're still having the same conversations with them same people, that's a problem.
Yes.
That's a huge problem. That means you haven't had any growth. The conversations and the people that I talk to now aren't the same. And you can't have those conversations with them because they're not going to understand it. They haven't walked them steps yet.
That's right.
And that's something that it is not, oh, that person changed. It's like, I have to do this now because here are the stakes. The stakes aren't what they were 7 years ago. The stakes are higher now. So I have to be around different people and other things to make those things happen. People don't get that. And I didn't get that. When I've been working on this thing for a long time, and I got a lot of good investor friends in Chicago and great friends of mine. And I was always trying to get them invested in what I was doing. And none of them did. And at first I was a little brash about it. Like, wow, that's, I thought they believed in what I was doing or believed in me. And it wasn't that. What I was working on wasn't their gift. That wasn't what they wanted to do. And that's okay. Because now people come to me with opportunities. I'm like, good luck with that, bro. Like, that is not for me. That's for you.
That's right.
And, and that's something we have to get for sometimes. And I'd held that on my shoulder for a while. And I started to understand, like, you know what? Everybody don't have time. Your dream ain't somebody else's dream. That don't mean they got to help you with it.
That's it.
And that's just growth in entrepreneurship that you learn. So.
And I'll throw something else just an and to that. It's, one of the things that I'm coming to understand is all about alignment, right? Everything is about alignment. It's always about, is it aligned with you? It doesn't mean that it's a bad opportunity, but if it's not the right opportunity for you and it's not aligned with what you need to be doing, then it's not the right thing for you. It's time to punt it. And see, 100%. That's one of the, it's not, and you see this with opportunities, it's not what you say yes to, is what you say no to.
Exactly. Right? That's it. Yeah.
It's not what you say yes to, is what you say no to. And a lot of brothers don't think that because we feel like we're supposed to grab everything. If it's good, I'm supposed to grab it. It's like, bruh, you're not supposed to grab everything. If it's not aligned with you and what you're supposed to do, it won't be a blessing. It'll be a curse. It'll be something that will hold you back from what it is you're ultimately called to do.
Yeah, man. I love that. Yeah, you're completely right. It has to be in line, because if not, you're splitting your attention and you're splitting everybody wants to be a multitasker and all this, but
that's a farce.
It is. You have to have focus on something in one thing for it to work. So, and the last thing I'll say on that is team. Like, who is your team? Who is your real teammates? Who are your real team players? Like, everybody talk about team, everybody talk about partners, and everybody want a CEO. Everybody ain't a CEO.
That's it.
All right. Everybody ain't a quarterback. Sometimes you got to be a running back. Sometimes you got to be the wide out. They still get the ball too. You know what I'm saying? But everybody is not made for leadership in that position. And they think that is. And I hate when I run into people and they always telling me they're a CEO. I'm like, you're not a CEO if you're not raising money. That's all a CEO is supposed to be doing, is raising money for the company. If you're not doing that, you're not a true CEO. So.
Dude, it's interesting. Like you mentioned leadership, and it's funny, like in corporate America, what happens if you're the top sales guy, what they typically do for you? They move you into what? Sales leadership. Leadership. If you're the top marketing executive, they move you into leadership or whatever. But one of the things that I've come to realize, and this is a good sports analogy, is rarely do you find Hall of Fame players that are also Hall of Fame coaches.
And say it again, or execs.
Because the thing is, if you take a step back and look at it, there are people who are gifted at the task at hand, but then you have gifted leaders, right? I was listening to an interview recently, and it's the lady who was like a Hall of Fame gymnastics coach at UCLA. It was an interview she was doing, or a motivational talk. And come to find out, like, she's won, I don't know how many national championships in gymnastics at UCLA. but she became the gymnastics coach at UCLA, never doing gymnastics and not even knowing gymnastics. She was a dance person who ended up getting into that, but she understood concepts from dance that she could apply to the gymnastics folks. And then she was able to liaise with, Coach Wooden and become good friends with him. And all these different things came into play. But ultimately, and then she brought in somebody who understood gymnastics, kind of like you did with the brother from the SIAC. And next thing you know, fast forward 30 or however many years she's been there, she's like one of the best gymnastics coaches of all time. Yep. Right. But again, she's a gifted leader. Yep. She was not necessarily the gifted, Dominique Dawes or Simone Biles type.
Yeah. That's so great you said that, because that transitions into my life after football, because I ended up jumping into the acting and modeling industry in Chicago, and it was one of those things where it was a quick jump because I just got out of playing football. I wasn't the best football player. I probably had a more successful acting career than I had 5 years of playing.
Hold on, pause for 1 second though. You say you didn't have a successful, air quotes, football career, but brother, you played at the University of Tennessee and you got drafted and played in the NFL. So let's not. Yes. On your level, maybe it wasn't a Hall of Fame football career, but the average brother who plays high school football does not get drafted into the NFL and actually play in the NFL. So please don't minimize.
You're right. And I'll bring that back to football and Tennessee. I'm glad you brought that up, but because that's what my love was at UT. UT was the best, decision I could have ever made. And my senior year, I was a team captain. I was a defensive team captain, and you're elected by team captain by your peers. Mm-hmm. And that to me meant a lot, because the other team captain was Peyton Manning. So for me to be the defensive team captain and him in the office, that meant a lot for me. And I took on that. I've always taken on that, tried to take on that leadership role in anything and everything I did. But, after playing football, played 5 years in the NFL, 3 years in New York, 2 years in Chicago. And actually, when I was in New York, probably learned football from the two best CEOs ever, from Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick.
Oh, wow.
So I understood, I really got a chance to learn football my rookie year. And I had chances every Tuesday. I got to watch film. Me and my James Ferrier, because we were the two rookies that got drafted that year. We were able to sit every Tuesday after practice and watch film with Bill Belichick.
Wow.
And you really get to understand football like I'd never understood it before. And I looked at you always, especially as a defense player, you look at football maybe one dimensional because it's your position. The men and players and soldiers that last in the NFL is that they know all the positions. You're the Ed Reeves, the Rod Woodsons, the Champ Baileys, the Charles Woodsons. Those guys are analytical players. And when you start to understand that's the way I need to play the game, that's when you start having that longevity in football.
Interesting. And so then you said you moved to Chicago, so you played
when I got to Chicago. Yeah, and then after and then it was abrupt. I played 2 years in Chicago and got traded to Green Bay. Went in practice, went in there for 5 days, and took a hit to the neck from Amon Green, rotator cuff, labrum, collarbone, PC. And Amon's one of my favorite. He's one of my best friends right now. So it's so funny, but how things work. Came back, played in the XFL, and I'm gonna tell you why that's so. It has such a big part of my life, because the XFL that came out, the first XFL, and this was when no one was like, "What is this gonna be?" It's just WWF and football and whatever. They had all these crazy ideas and cameras on the face of the helmets and all that. McMahon was too early.
Okay.
He was too early. Okay. No one got what he was trying to do. When we were even there, we didn't even know what he was trying to do. And you think about the whole XFL, what person did you really remember?
He hated me.
There you go.
Yeah, see, I was gonna say he hated me.
And that was the mark of the branding of athletes back then. You know what I'm saying? And we weren't all getting it, and that's why I don't think it worked the first time. But I ended up
pre-social media too.
Pre-social media, exactly. And And so I ended up getting a tryout for the Detroit Lions, and I failed the physical. And that was my
Okay.
last time stepping in a football facility with the Detroit Lions. And the reason I bring that up is because it wraps around my entire life. Uh, done over 136 commercials. Been on such shows like Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Empire. I'm on a show right now on Fox called The Big Leap, and I play Trayson, who is a Detroit Lions tight end coach.
Wow. Your last, it's like you went from one, it's like you stepped into the other in the same capacity, or in a different capacity with the same organization.
Yeah,
wow.
It's crazy. That's literally my last job that I did 2 months ago. So, and I'm still on the show as we speak. But it's been an incredible, career, and it's like it's great, and I love doing it. You and I have done some stuff together. I will continue to do it because that's kind of always been my brand. The more than the athlete, I really try to push that, because when it happened to me and I didn't know what I was going to do after football, I was in a panic. I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to do for my family. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And I don't want other athletes to be that way. And so the two projects, like you just said, if you'll keep and stay in aligned in all the things that you're doing, it'll be blessed. And I've got the right root and stock, and all the other things I'm doing are branches. And for me, what I'm doing right now is going to be game changing. It's going to be world changing. There already has been world changing, and it's called fan control football.
Well, dude, you got to dive into fan control football. For those that maybe have not heard of it, or have seen FCF, or seen clips and this thing where the fans are, calling plays and all that, man, talk to us, literally just give us the 30,000-foot overview of fan control football.
I try my best to make it real quick, but 8 years ago, I was in Chicago. I was at one of my buddies' semi-pro football games. And, semi-pro is just a whole bunch of guys getting together, just trying to kill each other. I'm sitting in the stands. They wanted me to talk to the teams. And so I'm sitting in the stands, and I'm texting my guy, like, dude, semi-pro's got his phone on him. So I'm like, bro, what is your coach doing, man? He calling all dumb old plays, man. Tell him to run a sweep. That corner sucks. Tell him to run a pass. Do this. Anyway, I get on the field, I talk to the players, and then I just, out of the blue, I go, Coach, can I get your phone number? And he was like, yeah. So I was like, I'm going to text you some plays, and I want you to run them for me, okay? I said, Coach, you do whatever you want on defense. I go back up in the stands. Because I had to see it right, I was like, run a sweep. And he ran a left sweep, got 6 yards.
Really? Hold on. So you literally this is a semi-pro, so again, this is not NFL or whatever. You text the coach during the game to run a play, and he actually ran that play
and got 6 yards. And I stopped, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Run your play action pass," and he ran it. And I'm moving down the field in the stands, just texting him plays.
Hold on. So you're basically playing a live video game with people.
Yes, that's what we've created. So I go home and I go work on it. I'm like tripping. I'm like, man, this is crazy. How do I do this? And I put about $25,000-$30,000 in it to try to come up with a beta test. Taught myself how to decode a beta test app to call 4 plays. I had 4 plays on a phone, and all the people had to do was pick the number 1, 2, 3, or 4, and which number had the most votes was the play that got ran. So that's all. It was just 4 plays, and it worked. And I was just like, wow. So I ran into my old teammate Tony Parrish, played for the New York Jets, safety, and we were just talking. He was like, man, what you working on? And I was just like, I kind of told him about it. He was like, man, bro, that is so stupid. I was like, what? Wow. Like, damn, he was just telling me how it wouldn't work. But TP was my oracle in my matrix. You feel me? He told me what I needed to hear, because then I was able to go back and change some things. And by that time, I had already put the seed in him to what it was. He runs into my partner now and my CEO, Sohrab Faroudi, that had an actual arena football team in the arena league, and he wanted to make his team a fan-ran team. And so Tony calls me and was like, bro, I got a guy that's trying to do the same thing you're doing. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm tripping. I'm like, oh, somebody's already coming out with this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wait. And it was like, yeah, he got some money too, and he wants to do the same thing you're doing. I'm like, damn. And he goes, but he wants to meet you. I'm
Ooh.
like, so I'm telling my wife, I'm talking to my wife, like I say, go back to my teammate. I go back to the huddle. I'm like, look, this is my idea, but this other dude got this idea too. What you think? She was like, what's it gonna hurt to go up and see him?
That's right.
We go up and see him. He had gotten two other guys that he didn't know. One was an SEO guy, the other guy was a gamer, and I was the football player. And he was the CEO. We all sitting at the table like, let's do it. Like, why have 100% of nothing or 25% of something we can create really great? And
That's right.
we had the right ingredients to make it work. An actual CEO, an entrepreneur that actually exited a company before, a tech guy, SEO guy, and a football player. We ended up raising $2.5 million, went out and bought a football team in the Arena League, and we proved the concept out. The Arena League was horrible. It was a horrible place for us. It was traditional. None of the coaches or the owners liked what we were doing. And we were like, we got to do our own thing. And that's the thing I thought my partners are so well at. And a lot of people aren't doing this. And I'm gonna drop this is a business gem right here. A lot of people don't know how to pivot. Everybody's so focused on how they want it to be done. The market is gonna make you pivot. If you think about basketball, you got to be in the right position. That's what the pivot's for, so you can make that shot. Some people are so focused and stuck on the way they see it, they can't pivot, and that's why a lot of startups fail. If you can learn how to pivot through things, then your company can exist. The reason I'm saying that is the pandemic hits.
Woo!
Our company has always, our mindset has always been a sport in a box. Meaning we could take our sport wherever we wanted to go. We could take it from Vegas to Atlantic City, whatever. We don't need fans in the stands. We used to tell investors all the time. I can't tell you how many investors just was like, this is the dumbest thing. Because we were like, fans aren't going to be in the stands. We're going to do this. All the fans are going to be from home. We're going to build an app that they're going to put on their phone, and as their phone is going to become a joystick. They're going to get four plays. They've got 12 seconds to pick that play all around the world, and that play that's chosen is the play that's sent down to the team. So we had people all over the world, globally, over 12 million people calling plays globally.
Wow.
In Australia, in Japan, in New York, and they're all talking to each other as they're doing that. And when the pandemic hit, it almost proved us out. It proved our business that you can still have a sporting experience and not be in the stands. Wow. And people don't even realize that only 2% of actual NFL football fans have been in the stadiums. Everybody else is at home. Somebody, they're at home, and that's where. But we don't want the old school football player that's a fan that's sitting back with a Coke and a hot dog.
You want to engage.
We want to engage the fan forward, the one that's checking his fantasy football stats, the one that's tweeting about he's at the game, the one just took a snapshot of him, something that just happened during the game that was crazy. Those are the fans that we were looking for, and that's the culture that we built. We had a full 6-week season. We had over 12 million people watching. We've got sponsors from Progressive, Wendy's, IBM, Gatorade, and Progressive is great. Verizon is one of our investors. Twitch is one of our investors, and we were streamed on Twitch last year. We were the number 3 sports trending on Twitch. And our app in the App Store was the number 1 app for 27 days. Which people don't realize how. And number 2 and 3 was 2 was NBA and 3 was ESPN. So when you think about that, those type of things, that just to be in the App Store is one thing. To be able to be in the top 50 and your name pops up when you put in something that's a rarity in the game. So, and again, I know a lot of people are like, man, you've got 4 teams. What are the team names and who owns the team? How do you guys know what team's going to be what person? Well, the team names are made by the fans. The fans picked all these logos. If you see these logos, these
Mhm.
were all voted on by our fans. They picked the name of them: the Glacier Boys, the
Wow.
Wild Aces, the Zappers, and the Beasts. And so we were figuring like, well, how do we get people to like what we're doing? So we decided to give equity out to celebrities and social influencers. So the Beasts are owned by Marshawn Lynch and Renee Montgomery. You've got the Glacier Boys that's owned by Richard Sherman and Quavo, you know,
Wow.
and you've got Bob Minery, which is a social influencer with the Zappers. Last year we had Johnny Manziel play for the Zappers. Last year we had Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon got back in the NFL because he played with us. You
Wow.
know, so we were trying to do things that have been completely different. Everybody's like, "Oh, you compete with the NFL." We're not competing with the NFL. What we do is completely different.
Yes.
It's indoor football. It's a 1 hour game. We took out all special teams. There are no special teams, and for the extra point, you do the one-on-one drill.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
We talked about that.
listen. When I was at Tennessee and they blow them horns,
Mhm.
and it's the one-on-one drill, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
going up against Peyton and all them All-American wide receivers, and on the sidelines are the scouts. The
Oh, yeah.
NFL scouts are just sitting there, and it's your time to showcase. Everybody is watching you, and it was one of those times in my career that I just love, because that's what made that made me a man. Like, to
Yes.
me, going up against Peyton and going up against Joey Kenton and Marcus Nash and Peerless Price and it was eyes on you, man.
Yes.
You couldn't have more of a better competition. So I said, forget it. We're taking out all special teams, and that's how we're gonna do the extra point right there. And so we can do cool things like that. We have a fifth down. But people are like, how are you gonna get a fifth down? The more your team engages during the week,
Wow.
you can earn that. And so
Wow.
we've got it to a point where Wendy's, if you were the best caller of the play, Wendy's will send you food because you won that week.
Wow.
Those are the type of opportunities we're opening up. We have the 4 teams. We just now open up 4 more teams. So we have an 8-team league going in this season. Some of the team owners are Tiki Barber, DJ Ioki, a couple of the guys I can't say right now. But
yes,
again, talking about innovation and saying we're not like the NFL or any other league, these 4 teams are going to be NFT teams. So for you to be a part of these teams, you have to own one of our NFTs. And if those who understand what that means, that's the new, everything is going Web3 now. Everything is going that focused forward to the innovation of non-fungible tokens. And so we want to create our own digital currency within our league in season 3 and beyond. So,
man, I want to tell y'all, like we talked about before, you know, in the very intro, Ray was talking about the power of vision, how when he gave his shout outs, he was giving a shout out to his future children, right? He has children already, but also to his future children. And I mentioned that you're going to probably hear in his story this whole thing about vision and forward thinking. And when he talked about fan controlled football, this inspiration that came, being able to capture a moment, realize that something was there, put the people around you to conceptualize it, but then also figure out ways to pivot when you need to pivot. Don't be married to the methodology, be married to the idea, but then figure out different ways to bring that idea to life. And then if you listen to what he just talked about with NFTs, and if you don't know what he's talking about there, do some research on non-fungible tokens, cryptocurrency, the metaverse, all of that stuff, Web3, just do a little deep dive as to what's currently happening, but also what's coming down the pipe. And they're infusing that into not the NFL, but FCF, fan controlled football. And I also, you know, I mentioned that you're also an entrepreneur on other things. I know you and I talked about, you know, you have some other ventures that are not just fan controlled football related, but are also helping, you know, athletes and people going forward. Yeah. Give us a little snippet of what you can share about that.
That's a great transition, because the culture that we try to create, again, me coming from football and then transitioning into entertainment for the last 15 years. I've been SAG for the last 15 years. And we tried to create the culture and fan control as more than an athlete. You know what I mean? So that, hey, use our platform to promote whatever and anything that you're doing. You know what I mean? So we struck deals with, when we were with Champion was our sponsor with our clothing. We're like, hey, if we're gonna be partners, our players are going to be the models on the website. Right. Progressive Insurance, we did commercials with our offensive linemen and Flow. We had a player that was an entrepreneur, and he made gloves for the urban community for athletes that couldn't afford, gloves, cleats, and things like that. He would have had to step away from his business to play for us, but he really wanted to play for us. So we said, you know what? Let's strike a deal with you. And he did all of our gloves for the team. So he was still being able to be an entrepreneur, but also still live out his dream of playing ball. And for me, like you just said, staying in the line with all that, where I've always want to be. I always wanted to help athletes. And when I had my talent agency back in the day, the problem that it didn't really take off is because I didn't really have a chance to have really good athletes, because you couldn't pay college players to do those things. Well, now they have what they call the NIL, the NIL policy. That's out where now players and athletes can make money off their name and image and likeness. Now, when first people hear that, they're like, "Oh, I hate it, whatever." Well, you ain't an athlete, so I'm not talking.
That's right, not talking to you.
So, but what I will say, what I did see, what was going to happen in the industry was that they were going to focus on the 1% to 2%, the top running back, the top quarterback, the NBA player that's going to get drafted. Those are the guys that are making 6-7-figure deals. What about everybody else? Because last time I remember, it takes a team to win a championship.
That's right.
And so everybody from the walk-on to the backup quarterback to the starting Heisman Trophy quarterback all get rings. So we looked at it a different way. We were like, let's flip the bottle and look at the 98%. How do we focus on the 98%? And so my partner, Brian Jagger, who he actually makes apps for Coachella and BattleBots, he put together a platform allows us to use what we call blocks. So just imagine all the football players in the country that get on our platform share into that Gatorade deal. Gatorade says, I want all football players, and we're going to do a $200,000 campaign. Well, we get all the football players in the country, and they all shoot that message out all at the same time. And in our intelligence or our IE on the app, you can have a picture like this and the ad being the back, and every picture is different for each athlete. And so we've already gotten our seed round fund. We're up to $800,000 that we've raised. We are connecting with it. This is before I pivot. I'm making this my idea first, because I think this is where there's some seed that's got some seed that we can actually water and make happen. I'm starting with the HBCU schools.
Awesome.
So they have if you think about all the athletes in HBCU schools, they all, you don't have to have 10,000 followers.
That's right.
We need, if you got 2,000 followers, it don't matter. You're going to make money if you're on the platform, and it costs you nothing. All you have to do is sign up on the profile. So we're already onboarding. We already talked to Grambling State, FAMU, Prairie State. We're going to the South, and then we're going to start there. But then we're also going to start with the other colleges as well.
And it's all through Fan Controlled Football. Is this?
No, this is my business that I started up. It's the brand that I want to create. It's called Athlete, and it's just about opening up opportunities for young athletes so they can showcase and they can make money. Look, everybody's not going to make $10,000.
Absolutely.
What $200, $300 for a college athlete? That's awesome. I wish I had that.
Come on,
you know what I mean?
What you talking about?
So that's what and not even that though. And I say this the idea for this platform is like, hey, don't just use this platform for you to make a couple $100 here and there for the next 4 years. Take that audience. If I had to, just imagine, Mike, if I was able to tap into the 110,000 people that were screaming at me in Neyland Stadium. I was able to reach out to them with my business now. That's what we have to start teaching our kids that are in these positions. Take that fans and those audience with you. So then when you do have something else that you're coming up with, you can tap into an already made audience that already loves you.
Brother, all I got to say is doggone genius. But what do I expect from the bros? Nothing less. All right. Well, check this. I know we gotta end this up because you got another interview to go to. What are ways that people can follow you, they can support you, they can tap in? If you got some ideas and things that people can invest in, whatever. Just give all your tags out there, brother, so we can make sure we check in with you.
I'll start with my website, rayaustin36.com. You can see all the projects that I've done, what I'm doing right now. And I use my website as my resume. Like everybody can lie, but you can just go ahead, you can see it all for yourself, right?
Receipts.
There. So, I got all the receipts that you need to see over there. But rayaustin36.com, all my social media is all the same, rayaustin36. If you want to come on my LinkedIn, I'll be happy to add you on, and the same with any of my social too. So,
okay, no doubt. Well, fellas, ladies listening too, make sure to visit rayaustin36.com. Check out Fan Control Football. It's on Twitch. When does the season start for Fan Control Football?
We start in March, and I go to FCF.io, and I'm gonna tell y'all, it is when you see our stadium and what we're doing, it's unbelievable. And I don't know. I did announce our raise. I did tell you that because we'll be giving that information out tomorrow. Again, we're announcing tomorrow with Forbes.com that we've finalized our Series A at $40 million. So we are rocking and rolling, and super excited. We've got season 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to then get into Fan Control Baseball too. So as well.
Ooh, man, look at here. You and I gonna talk behind the scenes because I got some ideas and all of that stuff. But dude, man, for one, I'm proud of you, man. I want you to continue doing the good work because it's bigger than you, right? And
100.
I think the sacrifice that your dad made from back in the day, which kind of got the ball rolling to open this thing up, really planted a seed inside of you to make decisions and make sacrifices to make this thing bigger for those that are coming behind you. And, as the brothers, we know about being the bridge builder. You're building a bridge for those coming behind you, my man. And I salute you, and I want to encourage you to continue doing what you're doing, my brother.
I appreciate you, Mike. I thank you for the time, man. And I hope there was some good words for people to chew on. So,
man, there's a whole lot of stuff here, man. well, fellas, as always, make sure to follow Black Fathers Now on all social media outlets. Subscribe, share this thing out. It's gonna help somebody. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace.
Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.